This is the Red Podcast.
This is episode number 111, part 2 of a two-part series. We're talking about Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank's Rules for Entrepreneurs. That's coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
I bought a new desk today, David.
All right, stepping it up.
I'm excited. I've been thinking about a new desk for probably months now. Found one that I liked.
Super modern.
It is. It's modern. It's sleek.
It's white and shiny.
It is white and shiny. I looked up how to feng shui your office because I was curious what they would say about desk in feng shui in reference to a home office. And I learned a couple things about a desk. I learned that a glass desk is not good in terms of feng shui because it means like deals fall through. Have you heard that?
Hadn't. And I've made the most money ever having a glass desk.
So that's not accurate. Okay.
Not always, maybe. I've got a huge wooden and metal desk now.
They say feng shui says that wood is the best to have. So I bought a wood desk.
Well, it's solid. It's earthy. They make money out of it.
Exactly. I don't know about that. If you had the glass desk and no deals were falling through for you, then...
Well, it was reinforced glass, and you couldn't see through it. I don't know if that affects it. It was kind of a...
Oh, you couldn't see through
smoky glass.
Okay.
Maybe that had something
Maybe
to
it
do
was
with
the transparency of the glass. Anyway, I looked all this stuff up, and I bought a desk that made sense for me. So no deals will fall through. We'll see.
It's looking super modern.
I know.
I'm waiting for one of those funky chairs that looks like a hand or something.
Yeah, we're never going to have that.
It's like an art gallery.
Ever. Or the lips. It's just never going to happen
the
here.
lip couch.
At the Stuper residence.
This is the Red Podcast. Red stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. We help you build an audience, sell more products, and make more money. We're business optimizers. We're going to show you how to be more efficient in your marketing, finding the hidden money sitting right in front of you, even if you can't see it right away through that non-translucent glass. Robert Herjavec, you know him from Shark Tank. If you're in Canada, he's got a show up there. Very similar. It's about the same show. It's called Dragon's Den. CBC News did a story on him, top 10 tips for entrepreneurs, 1 through 5. We've already covered. That's on redpodcast.com/110. We're going to talk about 6 through 10 today.
On the last episode, I talked about how Barbara and Robert are two of my favorite sharks, and you said Barbara was yours.
I got a thing for her.
Apparently. But I like Robert because he's always ready to dive in and test something. Every time they're like, does anyone want to come up here and test the product? Like, Robert's always the first one to get up there and raise his hand and participate. While Mark Cuban might sit there with a frown on his face and his arms crossed and like there's no way he's going to go try out some virtual video game or some skateboard.
He's worried about his image, I guess.
He's all worried about his image, and Robert he's in there. He's putting on the chef hat. He's trying out these things. He's
like a big
me.
kid.
He is.
And
he's like a big kid.
Interesting guy to follow on Twitter. He's super into sports cars, always out racing cars. Seems to have a lot of fun.
That's what I like and appreciate about him. Is he seems to have a lot of fun with this. And that's why I think his tips that he does on CBC News are so good and so worth listening to, because he just has a great approach to business and to life, and he wants to have fun with it. So we're going to talk about his tips 6 through 10 today.
Number 6, train for a marathon. He says, this is where I completely contradict myself because diligence is so important. Once you find a good opportunity, go slow and check and double check everything. Business is a sprint until you find an opportunity. Then it requires the patience of a marathon runner.
He's saying he's contradicting himself because on the last episode, which is redpodcast.com/110, you can listen to 1 through 5 of his tips on there. Number 5, he said, if they can't catch you, they can't overtake you. And he was talking about going really fast, speed being the way that you can overtake other people, other competitors. And we talked a little bit about that. But now he's talking about train for a marathon, train for the long haul. That's a little bit different. So he's saying go fast till you find your opportunity, find what business you're meant to be in, and then train for that marathon.
One of my favorite entertainment sayings, every overnight sensation takes 7 years. And so often you see people through American Idol or through Shark Tank, and they aren't making money, they aren't famous, and then all of a sudden they're doing both. But we don't see behind the scenes. That's why I call the blog 23 Hours. 23hours.com, my blog. The concept is people aren't paying you for the 1 hour you're on stage, the 1 hour you're doing your work. They're paying you for the 23 hours that it takes to get there. The same with becoming famous, the same with making money. Some people just stumble upon something. They just happen to have something work out. But as we've said before, success is a lousy teacher. You don't get to learn those lessons. I think long-term success, I think it absolutely is a marathon. I think it's showing up every day, 1 foot in front of another, getting better and better, slow incremental improvements. So I agree with this completely.
And you don't want to give up at mile 13. And that's what so many people do, is it's really hard. A marathon is really hard.
So I hear.
I've never done one, but I've cheered people on. So I've seen people doing it. And you just don't want to give up halfway through because it's difficult, because it's not until usually that last mile that you have that success and you become that overnight success. David, you and I took a comedy writing class. In the class, the instructor showed us a video of someone who was doing their comedy routine on the Letterman show, I believe. And he said it took him, I think it was 17 years to get on that show.
He had a segment that I think was 3 to 4 minutes. It wasn't long. I'm not sure if it was 17 years of material, if it's old material, but it was being developed and honed constantly. You test it, you track it, find out what works, drop what doesn't. And that's how you get that good.
Probably the other comedians that saw him on there were like, oh, he's so lucky, wow, he's an overnight success, he's on Letterman. But he had been in the game for so long, and that's what it looks like in business. It's not always pretty when you're running the marathon, but it's just part of it. And you just have to be in there for the long haul and just know that this is a marathon, this is not a sprint. Prepare for it. Travel light.
Letterman was a stand-up comic before he got into television. He spent years in Los Angeles. I believe he was from Indiana. I think that was where he was before L.A. And, of course, he'd been out in Indiana working for a while. There's a lot that you see before somebody actually has success. And it takes a lot to keep going. You talk about the marathon. Letterman has had scandals. Letterman's had ups and downs. He's had different competition, personal issues. Keeps showing up every day, 1 foot in front of the other. That's the marathon Robert Herjavec is talking about. You don't know what life is going to throw at you, but you show up expecting that. Mentally, you're able to better prepare for it then. Number 7, top 10 tips for entrepreneurs by Robert Herjavec. Speaking of Letterman, I got this top 10 thing going here. For 1 through 5, go to redpodcast.com/110. Number 7, hunt for your dinner. No matter how full and fat you get, don't stop looking for opportunities. You can never be satisfied as an entrepreneur. And the basis of any successful growing business is new clients.
I've seen this happen time and time again, especially with coaches or people in a client-based business, is that they work really hard on their marketing. They get a lot of clients, they're working with a lot of people, and they stop doing the marketing while they're working with those clients. And then those clients graduate their program or move on, and then they have no clients. So I see these people stopping the marketing cycle, and you really can't do that. Even if you're full, even if your client roster is completely saturated, you have to keep going out. And as Herjavec said, hunt for your dinner. Never stop the sales cycle or the marketing cycle.
It's one of the biggest marketing lessons from Big Tobacco. A product that if you use it correctly, you will die from. Because of that, they have to keep people in the pipeline. Start young, get them early, get them on one brand, because once you start with a brand, you don't switch. You need to think that way in your business as well. I've actually got an entire article with marketing lessons that you can learn from Big Tobacco. And for that, let's go to the page here with episode notes, redpodcast.com/111. We'll have a link to it there. You always have to hunt for your dinner. I'm always amazed at the guys that I feel are getting fat. And I mean by that, they have money, they have comfort. The guys that can still wake up at 5 a.m. and hit it just as hard as they did when they were struggling.
You really do have to keep hunting. I mean, you don't see a tiger in the jungle getting one dinner and then that's it. All right, satisfied forever. I mean, they get up the next day and they do the same thing and they get up the next day after that. You really have to stay in that cycle if you want to have longevity in this business, if you want to stay alive.
With that said, I do believe that there is ease. I do believe that there's momentum that comes with success that you can make work for you. Because I think some of these guys that always have to hunt for their dinner, I think it's ridiculous. I think, like, man, you need to lay off a little bit. Stop working so hard, unless you really like it. Now, I can't argue with that. But I look at guys like Dave Ramsey, Laurel. This is a guy who's super successful, but he always seems so wired to me all the time. Is he enjoying that success, or is he afraid of losing it? So, yeah, you got to go hunt for your dinner, but at the same time, trust that you're going to be provided for. Trust that the work that you've done in the past and that you're doing right now is going to carry you forward to the next step. I don't think it's a way to live to be completely paranoid, but you can't rest on your laurels too long. So find that balance.
Or if you're a tiger, you could start a business raising a farm of gazelle and give yourself some ease through that instead of having to hunt. So there are options there.
Speaking of balance and ease, number 8 in Robert Herjavec's top 10 tips for entrepreneurs from CBC News. He says there is no work-life balance. Your business is a living, breathing thing, and it has to be fed. It has to grow to survive. There's no balance in your life when your business is in trouble. If you're under the illusion that you can start a business and run it at your life schedule, you are mistaken. I'm working on a brand new book, right in the middle of it, working on some other big projects. And Laurel, you've reminded me more than once that all the other projects that we've got going on aren't just going to go away to give me time to work on this book. I've got to make time to work on the book.
Absolutely. When you went into business first, David, did you ever think you'd achieve a sense of work-life balance? Did you have that fantasy there that you'd kind of have that 4-hour work week and then be able to go and live on a beach or something like that?
I didn't really want balance when I started. I was having so much fun being in the music and entertainment business. It was my lifelong dream. I succeeded at it, and it was so much fun. I didn't want any balance.
People always ask me these days, like, oh, what are you doing this week? Or what are you doing this weekend? And I always say working. And it sounds so negative if you're used to going to a job, because nobody likes to work all the time. But that's the thing, David, is you and I don't have a lot of work-life balance because we love to work. Now, we do have to find and schedule time to do other things and to create some boundaries there. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need a balance. If you like what you're doing, if you're having fun with it, don't strike that 50-50 balance. Sometimes it's going to be 60-40 work life. Sometimes it's going to be 40-60. Sometimes it's going to be totally off. That's okay. Don't think that success is creating 50% work, 50% life. There's a huge overlap when you work for yourself as opposed to when you have a regular 9-to-5 job.
I agree with that. For me, the balance is on a day-to-day basis rather than maybe looking at everything from a big picture. There are times in the day where, like today, I took off for lunch, was eating outside on the deck with some friends. It was great. Spent a couple hours doing that. I don't have to be in the office all the time, but I might work later on into the day, later than most people would. I'm in the gym every day, in a yoga studio every day, doing something to get me away from the office where I can have time to rejuvenate, time to relax, time for myself. So for me, the pulses come frequently, but they're not like a week's vacation. It's rare for us to take a few days off. We do that 2 or 3 times a year, though. We at least try to, though.
I'm better at it than you are.
Yeah, well, you have to keep me on that. That's another thing
Yep.
that is really great about being with you is that you keep me honest on that. And when you do get me away into the vacation mode, the strange thing is that's when we come up with some really big breakthroughs in our business.
I think adding vacation and downtime into your schedule and your business or your year as a whole is really important for you to be able to thrive at your business. If you are in your business, working on your business all day long, you're never going to be able to take that step back. So you do have to work those things in there. You do have to set up some boundaries. Just don't expect it to be